The president is unhinged. He is unwell. What
A
are
lot
you
of folks
doing?
on your side are too. I don't control
Oh my
them.
God, please. That performance in front of the generals, that
I didn't see it.
is so dangerous. You know I serve on foreign affairs and appropriations.
Yeah.
This is a collision of those two things. Our allies are looking elsewhere. Our enemies are laughing.
I just left
You
the
have a
speaker's
president
side.
who
I
is,
just
you have a
left the-
president who is unwell.
Our opening clip was Congresswoman Madeline Dean of Pennsylvania saying to Mike Johnson's face what needs to be said, but obviously being very polite about it. You and I would maybe say it a little differently. I would probably be like John Cusack in that one movie and hold up a boombox over my head, just blasting Gaslit Nation episodes 1 through infinity. Because what is happening to America, as they always say, if Trump is not a Russian asset installed with the help of Russia to destroy America from within, he's certainly doing what a Russian asset, what a foreign enemy would be doing. So this is basically World War III, but this time it's on our soil and we are under Russian occupation. And I know I've gotten a lot of heat from the very beginning to point that out, and people are still resistant to seeing things that way. But once you see things that way, it makes a lot of sense. And the sooner everyone can work through the stages of grief and acceptance, the sooner we can build together for a solution. America has homegrown fascism that the fascists over in Russia took advantage of through bot farms, through being active on pumping out disinformation at us across every single available social media platform. Golden handcuffs, buying off our politicians, and so on. And yes, Putin's Kremlin is aligned with Netanyahu's Israel, his ruling coalition of terrorists. Yes, we're working with a transnational crime syndicate, the dictatorship network, pretending to be governments when they're really just crime sprees. If you look at what Orban has done, Viktor Orban, who is the far right, American far right's icon, Orban destroyed Hungary from within. He got himself and his family just loaded with money. Where'd that money come from? You can just guess. They're pillaging. They're pillaging. Media across Hungary is owned by Orban and his family, his lackeys. Quality of life has plummeted. Plummeted. By all reports, Hungary is now the most corrupt country in all of Europe. We're going to talk more about Hungary in another episode because they have a big election there this April, and it looks like Orban is facing his greatest challenge yet. And if he loses, what's going to happen? Is there going to be a January 6th over in Hungary? Obviously, Musk and Trump and Putin will want him to stay in despite the election. Maybe it'll get stolen. So, all eyes on Hungary. More on that in future episodes. All right, everyone. In this special bonus show, I want to share some remarks that I made in Monday's Salon. I want to highlight them because things are only going to get worse before they get better. Trump, yet again, while controlling both houses, both chambers of Congress, has shut down the government. They are, of course, using this to further purge through their Project 2025, just like we warned everyone in 2024 they were planning to do. We had early episodes. We were one of the earliest shows to explain to everyone what Project 2025 is. We rang the alarm. We then had like 12 phone banks asking people, please, 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 pay, just leave it all out on the field this election. It's going to be close. And of course, here we are. So Project 2025, full effect now. Trump is gloating about it on his social media. If you are impacted by this latest government shutdown, I'm so sorry. This is a horrible time for our country. The uncertainty, the grief, the pain of it. You're not alone in seeing the cauldron that they are creating for all of us, the pressure cooker that they are worsening with their chaos and their crime spree and their ongoing Epstein Files cover up. And so the problem with this in openly destroying people's lives the way that they're doing impacting their own base, their own voters, Trump's polling plummeting. This is creating a perfect storm of chaos for our country. Now, listen to my remarks from Monday's Gaslit Nation Salon on what that chaos is ultimately leading to. And so that means we're still shaping this country. We're still forcing things to change and get better, and we're going to do it. Our generation is going to be remembered, or us alive today, we're going to be remembered for having done for showing up and having done the work that needed to be done. Right now, the trap is demoralization and normalizing and mass media capitulation, right? Those are the sort of dangers we're being bombarded with. Another danger that everyone needs to pay attention to is I firmly believe that everyone, like all the frustrations we share on this gathering, that's widely shared to the point where I am convinced there are individuals and groups of people who are manipulating online forums to incite violence. So all of these shootings that are going on that are very clearly politically driven, these people are being manipulated into becoming shooters. The shooters are performing for an audience. And that audience is driven by individuals across the political spectrum who have lost such hope and faith that they want a war. They want to kill their perceived enemies. That's how Charlie Kirk was killed, right? That kid was incited to do that. He didn't act alone. And then you had the ICE shooting. That kid didn't act alone either. And Luigi Mangione, the alleged shooter, or whoever killed the United Healthcare CEO, because I'm still not convinced it's Luigi. Doesn't look like him in the earliest photos. I did a whole show on that. But like whoever killed the United Healthcare CEO, that person didn't act alone. The amount of planning and work it takes to even think of carrying out an assassination is immense. Those people are not acting alone. And we know this because ISIS was the same exact threat against us during the height of ISIS. You had all these ISIS sympathizers across the US who were carrying out these horrific acts of terrorism, even like using like a hatchet or, knife or whatever, because they were getting incited by these online extremist groups to do that. So now you're seeing all these shootings, political shootings, Charlie Kirk, ICE, etc. That's folks who are like, I'm so pissed off. Fuck the system. Both parties suck. No, I didn't vote. So I'm going to instead hang out in these chat groups and really like get people riled up and like really egg people on. That's 21st century asymmetrical warfare that's happening right now against the system. It's pretty. I warned 2 years ago on this show. I did a whole episode because I saw it. I felt it. And I said to everyone, I'm like, watch out. Violence is coming. Please choose nonviolence. And to the system, to the oligarchs hate listening to this show, please understand, we can preach nonviolence in as much as you want, but ultimately, if people don't see a future, they're going to go nuts. They're going to wild out. They're going to choose violence. We're living in a time where everyone is convinced Earth is about to get destroyed by an asteroid. So what's the point? AI is going to take our jobs. Climate crisis is going to burn us alive. Like, there's no future. So when the asteroid's coming, what do people do? They wild out. They take matters into their own hands. And we're going to see more and more and more political assassinations. And what those idiots on the right don't understand is that it's their heads on the chopping block because they're the ones who are in power. And if they take things over to such an extent that voting very clearly doesn't matter, what do you think is going to happen? They have zero control over the online space. Zero control. They haven't figured out how to control it. There's way too many people for them to control. I know we think Big Brother's everywhere. Peter Thiel is trying to create his AI Big Brother to map us all out and watch us. They're openly building that. We know that. But the reality is, it's like people, the desperation and the nihilism is such a powerful force right now that they don't understand what they're up against. And so it's folks like us who are clinging on to our humanity, who are trying to stay grounded and say, "Hey, let's not get tempted. Let's stay grounded. We still have a fighting chance. Let's work within, like, let's fight like hell, like, in the grassroots level." So it's but it's wild out there right now, and it's only going to get worse, especially the more Trump and the Christian nationalists power grab. It's all going to backfire on them because people are overwhelmingly pissed. And that's not me. That Do I want to live in a stable, peaceful, boring place? 100%. But I'm just saying this is what's happening. People need to get their heads out of the sand. This train has left the station, and the only way to alleviate this pressure is for there to be more calm, more coming together, people in power listening and addressing and providing programs for us to all get behind. But instead, the hate that they're pushing is coming back against them. Right? It's like they're doing it to themselves, really. Thank you to everyone who attends our salons on Monday. The questions I get from our listeners, they send my mind going to places they need to go to say what needs to be said. And it's so helpful to have this community of listeners, our resilience group, to work through everything, to check in with each other, to believe our eyes and ears. It is a very dangerous time, obviously, for our country and the world. We will ultimately get through it because I've studied authoritarianism for decades. We will ultimately get through it. There is going to be an end to this and a movement towards something greater. From the ashes, new generations of leaders will rise. It inevitably happens. It inevitably happens. And I talk about that in Monday's Salon. I will post the recording to that 2-hour conversation with our listeners on Monday on Patreon, as well as the Zoom link for this coming Monday's next Salon. Look forward to seeing you there. It is always a cuddly mosh pit. You just never know what someone's going to say, where the conversation will go to. So I appreciate everyone's insights and feedback and ideas and all the exciting things you're doing and all the news you're sharing from your corner of this country that is under assault by a traitor. Yes, we're living in a time where the traitors are being called patriots and the patriots are being called traitors. But again, they are their own worst enemy. And as the Ukrainians say about the Russians, we are lucky they are so stupid. I want to now play the recording from Gaslit Nation's discussion of our book of the month for September 2025. And it was Harriet, Moses of Her People by Sarah Bradford, a book written during Harriet Tubman's time with her help based on interviews with her. It is an extraordinary account. And for October, we are reading 2 books, Deaf Republic by Ilya Kaminsky and Total Resistance by H. von Dach. This is a fascinating combination. One is a poetry book, and the other is a well-known guerrilla strategy toolkit for survival and defiance should you find yourself under occupation. Yes, it was a military strategy that was put out after World War II over fear of the Iron Curtain, over, formerly German occupied European countries now falling under Soviet occupation and ways that they could resist. So these are 2 fascinating books looking at resistance, one from an artistic level, Deaf Republic. Deaf Republic. It is about people communicating, finding ways to communicate. It's a poetry book while under occupation, dealing with a war, and that's by the poet Ilya Kaminsky. And the other one is a practical resistance guide. Again, Total Resistance by H. von Dach. I will link to both books in the show notes. This is going to be a fascinating discussion between these 2 very different books that are looking at resistance, one through art, the power of poetry, the power of coded language and creativity, and the other one, nuts and bolts. This is how you do guerrilla resistance movements, everybody. This is how you do communication when you're under threat and so on. Fascinating history of both books. We'll get into all of that at the Gaslit Nation book club discussion on the last Monday of October. So to join us at these exclusive events only for our Patreon community that keeps our show going, make sure you sign up, get your membership at patreon.com/gaslit. Discounted annual memberships are available, and you can give the gift of membership. It is you, our supporters, who are keeping our independent journalism going, especially in this time of collective grief and collective threats. Yes, we are all living a certain way now, but we are helping each other through it. And ultimately, again, I've studied this stuff for decades. We will prevail. We will prevail from us planting our seeds of hope and defiance. Generations will rise. That's not the same as saying future generations will save us. We are in a generational battle. We did not get here overnight, and we will not get out of this overnight. So we together through Gaslit Nation, we're coming together. We are refusing to back down. We are doing the work. We are showing up for ourselves, for each other, for our families, fighting for a livable, free, fair future for all. That is it. We refuse to accept the slop they're trying to shove down our throats. We are rejecting their tyranny. We're saying no. We are choosing alternatives. And in coming episodes, we're going to have wonderful guests on the show to talk about what those alternatives look like. It's enough with dystopia. We're going to talk about utopia. What is the alternative to this madness? Because I want to be there. All right, more in future episodes. Now, here is the opening remarks from our book club discussion on Harriet, Moses of Her People by Sarah Bradford. And to get the full Read and Resist Gaslit Nation book club listing, just go to the show notes.
Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Let my people go.
Now when Israel was in Egypt land,
Let my people go.
oppressed so hard they could not stand.
Let my people go.
So the Lord said, go down,
Go down,
Moses,
Moses,
way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaohs to let my people go.
my people go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gaslit Nation Salon for September 29, 2025. I'm so honored to be here with you all. We are discussing the Gaslit Nation Book Club pick of the month for September, and that is the extraordinary book called Harriet, Moses of Her People by Sarah Bradford, a white woman who was a historian and a children's book author from a prominent, well-to-do New England family. She became friends with Harriet Tubman, who at this point, when she's writing the book, is in her old age. And Harriet Tubman is essentially running an old folks' home. She is a Union veteran, having been, after obviously being the general of the Underground Railroad, where she freed something like an estimated 70 people, primarily starting with her own family. And then she would go on to be a nurse for the Union, doing magical things with herbs, roots, and innovative things to heal soldiers. People were like, wow, that's really, she was very, very innovative as a nurse. And then she was also the first woman to lead a major military operation, and that was one where over 750 slaves were freed. And throughout this time, do you think Abraham Lincoln's government was paying her for her efforts? Her entire life was devoted to this cause. Was she getting paid by the US government? No, she was not. And even in her old age, as hard as she fought, she had every reason to just drift off into the sunset, enjoy her retirement, living off of what she could. She spent her final years taking care of others, like managing an old folks' home. So Sarah Bradford took it upon herself to write 2 books about Harriet to try to raise money for her. Because who else was doing it? Not the US government, which she served in its darkest hours to keep the Union together. So that's an important headline of this conversation. I don't think that gets enough attention, that Harriet Tubman, superstar, financially abandoned by her government. And so I do think there are ways to make that right, obviously. At the very minimum, replace one of the slave owners, like on the $20 bill. Who is that? Bloody, bloody Andrew Jackson, who Trump loves because he furthered the genocide against Native Americans. But replace him with a Harriet Tubman. I mean, that I know there was a discussion of that, but anyway, I'm not going to go down that thread, even though I'd like to. But I do want to say one of the striking features of reading this book, and obviously Sarah Bradford, she gets criticized by academics today because it's more of like a heartfelt, fangirl, enthusiastic biography of her heroic friend Harriet Tubman. And it doesn't really stand up to academic rigor, but it is a widely read book today because of the fact that she has the direct involvement of her friend Harriet Tubman. So we hear Harriet Tubman's own voice, and we have all these intimate anecdotal stories of what it was like to be in Harriet Tubman's life and times. So as a primary source, it's absolutely fascinating and valuable in its own right.